What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, talking Wednesdays. Fun, I think. 11-game slate, another big slate. Had a good one last night, another good one tonight. You guys know me, I'm Draft Cheat, joined today as usual on Wednesday by Mr. Travis Mangone from a different location than normal. Travis, what's going on this Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, we're on the East Coast, the Jersey Shore, so it should be a lot of fun. I'm here for a bit, excited to break down winners with you guys. I believe you and I will be kicking off the 4th of July tomorrow, too, so we're going back to SAC DC. Should be a lot of fun. Really good baseball slate tonight, and tons of winners to give out, DC. And well to see you. There's a couple people in chat. We're 2-0 on my mom's plays, right? Well, she's live. She's here, so it's possible we can maybe get a winner tonight. We'll have to see.
Can we get Mangone's mom live on the show, or just the winner?
I think we could get her live, maybe on the 4th. We'll have to see. I don't know if off the cuff we're going to do it, but we'll have to see. Maybe if the people want it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we are live tomorrow at, I believe, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So you get to sleep in a little bit, Mangone. I got to be up bright and early for that show. That's all right, though. 4th of July coming up should be fun. Always a good baseball slate on the 4th of July. And, I get an excuse to crack one early. Usually I gotta wait till the baseball starts. But it starts nice and early on the 4th of July. That'll be fun. And, we got 11 games tonight to talk about. Good night last night for the most part. And, we'll hope to keep it rolling. It's been a good run for RPS. And, we'll try to do it once again. With that, Mangone, let's dive right into it. Got a lot to talk about. First game on the slate, Cincinnati and the New York Yankees. Carlos Rodon pitching for New York. I've been kind of fading him all year, and it's worked the last 3 starts at least. He was on a pretty good run for most of April, May, and into June, but he's gotten hit hard recently. 8 and 5 runs allowed in his last 3 outings. 10, 11, and 7 hits. So he's been hit around for sure. He'll go up against the Reds here. Good matchup for Rodon, 8,100. I think people will probably end up going to him. Yeah, Sabres got him as the second highest owned pitcher on the slate. I'm biased, honestly, against Carlos Rodon, so I will once again never be playing him, but I never do. So I'm not the guy to ask Carlos Rodon advice about, I guess. And then Andrew Abbott on the other side, pitching for Cincinnati. No real interest in him either. Actually, Rodon would be the better play between the two in my eyes. But I'm not playing either of these pitchers. It is kind of a crazy slate where we've got 2 4K pitchers, a bunch of other cheap pitchers, and everybody that watches this show knows my preference to pay down for pitcher when I can. Today certainly seems like one of those slates to me. But over to you, Mangone. What are you doing with the Reds and the Yankees here?
Yeah, and again, good slate tonight. We're gonna have some good pitching to spend on. It's this Yankees game. I don't know what to do with this Yankees team. This team is definitely the lineup's.
I'll tell you what to do right away.
Not play him, right?
You just play Aaron Judge every night and don't play anybody else. It certainly worked out last night with this Yankees team.
It's definitely not the worst idea. Like I said, this starting lineup is bad right now. That's just something I gotta say. It's not a good starting lineup. And when we see these lineups kind of get watered down like this, I do like to avoid these offenses. It just doesn't seem like a great spot. Like Andrew Abbott, I think you can beat up. Like I don't totally think it's the worst thing in the world, but I don't want to play 5-mans. I think mini stacks you could easily make a good case for. If you want to play Jose Trevino with Aaron Judge, I think that's perfectly fine. If it was a Gleyber Torres with Aaron Judge, that's fine. But that's really it. I don't want to play the 5-mans here. I know they have almost a 5 implied run total. It's in Yankee Stadium. It's about like 75 to 80 degrees. Wind isn't blowing out. It's a crosswind. But I just don't see myself playing Yankees right now, 5-mans. So I'm going to wait on that. Minis, perfectly fine. And like you said, Aaron Judge is a great play. No one's going to doubt that. The dude's been on absolute fire. He's one of those guys that can just win you a slate. Like yesterday, Trey Turner was the guy that, if you didn't have him, you probably didn't take down first place. Not saying you didn't make money, but you had to have him to really make all the money last night. So, that's what Aaron Judge can obviously do. Carlos Rodon, that's a good one to debate because the Reds, we don't typically play them as much on the road because typically their ballparks are really great spots to play them. But keep in mind, Yankee Stadium is not the worst park. The only downside is we typically like it for some lefties. They got a very righty-heavy lineup here, of course, going up against Rodon. It's another reason I don't want to play Rodon. Every single bat in the lineup is righty today. So I don't think it's a good spot for Rodon. I would prefer the spot more for the Cincinnati Reds, but I don't think the Cincinnati Reds are a priority by any means today. They're not one of these teams that I feel like I have to get in. They're not a spot where I'm just saying Carlos Rodon is this guy that I want to leverage against. I think you can if you like him, but I just think there's other spots that I will personally get to on this slate.
Yeah, even though I'm not a Rodon guy, obviously a decent pitcher at the very, very worst. Noelvi Marte at 3,800 at third base, I think makes some sense. He's had some pretty good swings against lefties so far in his young career. I don't mind Stevenson at catcher, Spencer Steer. That 4.56 looks pretty good to me from the Reds, but I'm not going crazy with the Reds. There's 11 games. There's a lot of good spots. Yankees have a good bullpen. There's just not that much going for the Reds compared to some other teams. So I do like that 4.56 for the Reds as a mini stack, but not going crazy with them. And then the Yankees, I've talked about this a lot, Mangone, but I'll reiterate it here. Aaron Judge is so good that he pulls up the Yankees team totals by himself, which I think makes the rest of the Yankees go over-owned. And then the rest of this lineup is bad enough that it pulls down the team total from Judge, where I think on any given slate, just in general, Aaron Judge is lower owned than he should be, and the stack around him is higher owned than they should be. I think that's true of Aaron Judge, and I think that's true of Shohei Ohtani. Those two individuals, I think, are just frankly, again, a slate-to-slate basis can change, but in general, I think those two are the best two one-offs in the game right now, and I think the teammates surrounding them are generally a little bit over-owned. So I said the same thing yesterday. I managed to fit Judge and Ohtani into 3 of my 5 lineups each, so I had 60% each of those guys, and it worked out. And I didn't play, really many other Dodgers or Yankees with them, and I'm going to have a similar approach tonight. I'm going to get as much Judge as I can into my lineups, and frankly, you can get a lot tonight. I'm not going to play many other Yankees, and I'm going to do the same thing with Ohtani. This, be the last game we talk about, but I think that's the right approach with these guys right now, just thinking of a, kind of a game theory approach to who I think are the two kind of outlier hitters in baseball at the moment. That's enough on Yankees and Reds. Let's get to Houston and Toronto up next. This one, a straight pick 'em in the betting market. 2 pretty good pitchers here. Ronel Blanco going for Houston against the Blue Jays, of course, and then Yusei Kikuchi going for Toronto. Both these guys have been good pitchers this year, Mangone, but I'm not getting to either of these guys today. They both have tough matchups, low strikeout matchups, to the point where I will be looking elsewhere. Free Scotty says the Astros stack is in play. I don't hate it, but there's just a lot of good spots to get to today. This will be a game where I don't really have a whole ton of either side of this matchup. I'm not saying a complete cross-off. There are some cheaper bats on both sides that I think are reasonable plays, but in terms of full stacks, pitchers, I'm not going to have much of this game. What are you doing, Mangone, with Astros and Blue Jays?
Yeah, so the Kikuchi conversation is interesting because he's been really good this year, but he's also had some bad moments as well. So it's just been an up and down year for him. This is not the matchup, in my opinion, to play someone like Kikuchi. Like the Astros, they don't strike out as much. The big debate is what is the lineup going to be for that team? Let me refresh this and see because
they've got it. It's normal.
Is it normal? Well, it's how normal is it? I guess it's normal for what now is because they have mixed in some other guys. Like who is Gray Kessinger? I don't think I've seen too much of him.
I don't actually know, but other than that,
I mean, it's the normal. It's the new normal, right? With Diaz in the 4-hole, Myers 5, Pena 6. But it's not. I don't think it's the same team where. If you wanted to make a case for Kikuchi, I get it, but I can't do it. For me, I'm not going to get there. Blanco is another one. I haven't really played him that much this year. I don't see myself playing him because if you look at some of the pricing, like, do I want to spend $9K for Blanco and go up to some of these other pitchers that we'll talk about that I think are good options? I just don't think so. I know he's a little bit cheaper than Chris Sale, but I'm just going to play Chris Sale, right? Way more of him than I am of someone like Blanco. So, there's some chalk I like to eat, and I don't want to play Blanco as like a contrarian play versus him. So that's kind of my thoughts there. And I don't love the bats in this spot. I know that the Blue Jays have definitely kind of turned their sticks around a little bit. Ever since they kind of got Bo Bichette back in the lineup, it's really felt like they've turned a bit. If they went off today, would I be completely shocked? No, I don't think I'd be shocked against someone like Blanco, who I don't think is like this just, world beater of a pitcher that we're scared of. But I don't see myself getting to the Blue Jays too much, unless you have some take that can help get me there. But when I looked at some of the numbers, it just didn't seem like Blanco was someone I wanted to attack tonight.
No take like that. I'm with you. This game is one that I'll just mostly be avoiding. Just too many other good spots, both pitching and hitting wise, for me to get to much of any of Blue Jays and Astros. Maybe a one-off here or there if it fits, but no priority plays at all for me with Houston and Toronto. Let's get to San Francisco and the Atlanta Braves. Up next, we've got Jordan Hicks pitching for the San Francisco Giants. He's kind of fallen off a little bit recently. I guess the recent results haven't been too bad, but hasn't been quite as good as he was earlier in the year. He also hasn't been quite as good on the road either. No surprise, given that he pitches his home games in San Francisco. I did use Birdsong yesterday, the Giants' cheap pitcher who performed pretty well. But I don't think I'm going to Hicks today at 7.3K. Not the worst play, but probably not for me. Chris Sale is projecting Mangone to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. I think understandably so. He's been just fantastic all year long. We've been on him for the most part. He had that one bad start, just one, against Oakland. I think it was a Sunday day game or something where he just got shelled. But other than that, man, he's been lights out almost all of his other starts. He does get, I think, kind of a sneaky, difficult matchup against the Giants, who are way better, I think, against lefties than they are righties. They've got several bats that are, like Soler, Elliot Ramos, Chapman, Slater, Matos. All these guys perform so much better against lefties than they do righties. So I don't think it's a perfect matchup for Chris Sale. Honestly, though, his matchups really haven't mattered. He's kind of mowed down any lineup that he's faced for the most part. So I do like Chris Sale here. He is the most expensive pitcher on the slate. He is we think, most owned pitcher on the slate. You combine those two things, and that's not normally something I'd like to go to. It's just you have to have everything go right. You have to have a big performance, and you have to have the expensive bats not go crazy. And even then, you're competing with 40% of the field. So I will probably end up under on Chris Sale. It's not that I don't like him here. It's just I think the more profitable way to build baseball DFS lineups is to mostly avoid these types of pitchers when there are other reasonable, cheaper options, which in my eyes there are today. So Chris Sale, again, I think he's going to be good. I'm probably not going to play him too much. Same thing with Hicks. And I might sneak in a Giants lefty masher or two. Soler, Chapman, Ramos would be at the top of that list. What are you doing, though, man, going with Braves and Giants here?
Yeah, it sounds like, you like Chris Sale too. It sounds like I'm going to play him more than you.
It's not that I don't like him. It's just I think there's preferred better ways to, or I prefer different ways to build tonight.
Yeah, it's not that you prefer other pitchers over him. It's you prefer other ways to build, which I understand. Yes. And there's definitely some good cheap pitchers. Maybe you could talk me on a couple more. I have a couple that I like, but I feel like I need a couple more along the way.
You know what? I see some 4K starters. I'm going 6 to midnight over here, Mango. I can't help myself.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get excited about them, but we'll talk about it, obviously. But I think you could make a case to pair them with Chris Sale too, and that could work, right? Especially if it's one of the 4K guys. So I do think Sale's definitely going to be someone that's, he's in my pool. I think I'm going to try to get overweight on him. The other point that you made, that's a good point. If you do play Chris Sale, Well, if you get Chris Sale right, you're still competing against a bunch of people that also have him, right? So that's one of the big debates. That's why I've definitely been on the cheap pitching route with you a lot this season, and it's gone pretty good. So kind of want to continue down it. But Chris Sale is
if it doesn't go right with the expensive pitcher, you're just totally cooked, right? You have no outs, really.
It does feel that way for sure. But this is like one of the anomalies, right? Like Chris Sale's just been the matchup hasn't mattered, right? He's just been absolutely amazing. It's only been one time, I think, this year that he's gotten, blown up. And there's other times where he gives up like a home run in like the first inning and everyone acts like it's all over and he ends with 28, right? He's just been an absolute monster this year. So I definitely like Chris Sale. The question is, do we build that way? And I do think you brought up some good points that if you are considering not playing him, you didn't say play a giant stack. You just said, hey, I might take a one-off of like a Ramos or Soler.
You're home run hunting. There's no need to stack.
Yes.
Take one guy, right?
Take one guy. That's it. And it's more just the one-off. You also don't build your lineup around the one-off, right? But you just kind of look at your team and you build it. You say, oh, I have this much money left. Depends if you're a hand builder. Or let's say you build with an optimizer and you're not getting any of them. Maybe you make 20 teams and maybe you want one Ramos. We'll just swap out whoever the 4,800 guy is for him and call it a day. You can find ways to make that happen if you want to. Mm-hmm. I did say, which I've been traveling the last couple of days, so I haven't really been I haven't been totally in the loop, I'd say. And I think I should consider Jordan Hicks a little bit more just because this Braves team sucks. They're not good. I've been targeting them. I've been taking the pitcher against them a lot lately, and it's gone pretty decent. I may have missed a little bit the past couple of days, but I don't know. I should consider Hicks a little bit more. There's some other cheaper options that I like that we'll get to, but I don't know. I just, the only argument I'll say that I don't love it is this is like the hot weather game. That's another concern, right? I typically don't like taking the pitchers in the hottest weather environment. And this is that one on the slate, 90 degrees. There's not a lot of games that are like 90 degrees on this slate. I think this is the only one. There's a couple in the 80s and then a lot in the 70s. So that's one other, issue there. So we'll see though. I'm surprised you're not on Jordan Hicks. I guess because you just like the Braves too much.
No, that's not why. I loaded up on Birdsong yesterday. So I faded Luis Gil yesterday as well. And I've mentioned this a couple times. I got a really strong main event NFBC team that has been anchored by Luis Gil and Jordan Hicks all season as late round draft picks. So I've watched these guys, every pitch they've thrown, and I just see it coming. I saw it coming for Luis Gil yesterday, where it just does not look the same. I think the same thing is true about Jordan Hicks, where this is just I think this is the most innings he's ever thrown in a season. And to me, it seems like he's running out of gas a little bit. Same thing with Luis Gil, which I suppose could get you on some Atlanta Braves if you think that's true. He just still is not a pitcher that gives up many home runs, although that has changed a little bit recently. But I'm not going to play Jordan Hicks today. I just kind of think his gas tank is running out a little bit. And yeah, there's enough other options to go to that I won't be going there, but I get it. I don't think it's a terrible play. I could certainly be wrong on my take on Jordan Hicks. And like you said, the Braves, it's not a team to avoid anymore. It just isn't. They just haven't been good.
When the Braves play tonight, DC, you're not like, well, shit, the Braves are in the hot weather game, and you're like, clenching your cheeks, right? That doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't. Yeah. There are certain teams where you have that worry, and I don't have that worry anymore.
Yeah, they're missing Acuna, obviously. Michael Harris is out of the lineup. They've got the worst hitting catcher in there. They had to bench Arcia because he was so bad, but Zach Short and Forrest Wall down there aren't any better. So it's definitely not the same Braves juggernaut that we saw in the past. And yeah, again, I think you can play Hicks, but I've just got my own kind of concerns about him, right or wrong, that are going to steer me in a different direction today. Philadelphia and the Chicago Cubs up next. Looks like it should not be a Wrigley win game here. Looks like some crosswinds, 82 degrees, humid. So, yeah, we'll play it kind of neutral-ish in Chicago. We've got Shota Iwanaga, another guy who, man, he looked untouchable for the first month and a half of the season, and has still had some good outings recently, but some rough ones too. -14 fantasy points against the Mets 2 starts ago, did bounce back okay against San Francisco. But he seems like another one where I think the league has figured him out a little bit. He's a very unique pitcher in terms of his arsenal of pitches. And he also doesn't benefit anymore, man. His first stretch of starts from the year was when it was 35 and 40 degrees in Wrigley and the wind was blowing in and you could give up as many fly balls as you wanted. It was just impossible to hit those fly balls over the fence. And so that has kind of turned around. I don't love him here. I'm off of Imanaga at 8,700. Zach Wheeler at 9,800. I do think is he's definitely a solid play at the very worst. Again, I do prefer to spend down on the slate at pitching, so I'm probably not going to play much Zach Wheeler, but I kind of put him in that Chris Sale bucket where it's not that I don't like him. I don't really want to talk anyone that's on him off of playing Zach Wheeler, but I'm just personally not going to end up on much of him. So, try to just be as honest as I can on the show about what I'm doing and what I think. So I do expect a good performance from Wheeler. It's just not how I want to allocate my DFS salary tonight. But what about you? What are you doing with Cubs and Phillies here? 7.5 total, so pretty low, and more or less a pick 'em in the betting market.
Yeah, I don't like the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs have been horrendous, right? Zach Wheeler, definitely a good play, someone that you should be considering for your lineups. He's just been incredible. The Cubs, I think they're the 3rd worst record now in the NL. I mean, their downfall has been really crazy. So they even signed Thomas Nido. The Mets didn't want him, and they grabbed Thomas Nido up. That's how bad it's been. But I think the Phillies are a really good play here against Imanaga. I think a lot of people see the name, and they're just going to say, well, I don't want to play him anymore, but I also don't want to stack against him, right? I don't think that's necessarily true. This Phillies offense is a juggernaut. I know they've dealt with some injuries and stuff, but I still think they're still worth rostering here. Looked good the other day. I think it's a good spot for these Phillies. Also the price tags. That's another nice thing when a team does get kind of banged up a little bit, you get some nice price tags on some of these bats that help make your lineups work. You get bottom of the lineup is Marchand in the 9 hole for 3K, Rojas 8 hole for 3.5, with Merrifield's in there at 3.4, Sosa 3.6, Posh at 2.5. The only thing I'll say is it looks kind of like, I talk about this with that Dodgers lineup. If you're playing these guys, you probably want Trey Turner and at least one of Stott or Bohm. Just make sure you get the guys at the top. When you run your teams in an optimizer, if you're not careful, your team will be Trey Turner and just 4 guys from that bottom of the lineup. And not that they're not good plays at the bottom of the lineup. There are. You just have to mix and match them appropriately. So that's all I'll say about the Phillies. I don't think they're a priority. I think they're definitely, if you're playing, 150 lineups, I think they're one of those teams that you kind of just want more of a sprinkle of. But I'd want to get a little overweight if I was MMEing a ton, just because I think the upside's really good. And I'd even look to say maybe get a little overweight on mainly the minis, right? With a Trey Turner and then mix in one of those other cheap options that helps make it work, like Marchand at the bottom as a catcher, because catcher's always a tough position. And that kid's not a bad hitter. So I think overall, this is a decent lineup to play. And I'll have a little bit of exposure to Phillies, not a ton.
Yeah, I like the 2 through 6 stack from the Phillies. Turner, Bohm, Castellanos, Sosa, Merrifield, the entire lineup outside of Stott is right-handed hitters. But yeah, like Castellanos, Bohm, Merrifield, all those guys have historically pretty big splits where they're much better against lefties. Bad bullpen behind Imanaga as well. I will say Pash, Marchand, Rojas, all somewhat of pinch hit risks. That's why what Merrifield is too, actually. So I do prefer kind of that 2 through 6 stack for the Phillies if I'm trying to get a little bit contrarian. And I like it a little bit, honestly. So yeah, I don't mind going a little bit off the grid with the Phillies there if you want to get away from the field a little bit. Next up is San Diego and Texas. This one, of course, back in Texas in the Dome. We've got John Gray going for the Texas Rangers. He's had some really weird usage this year. They've used him out of the bullpen a couple times, and he's been really bad in 2 of his last 3 starts. He did have a good start against Kansas City, sandwiched in between those 2. So I'm not really sure what to think of John Gray. I'm not on him here. I don't really use pitchers against the Padres much in general, and am not going to use John Gray here, but he is 6,500. So, I don't think it's the craziest thing, but probably not for me tonight, and not much interest in Adam Major either. He's been really, really bad so far in his big league career. ERA over 7 after 5 starts. I think you could use some of these Texas bats. Wish Corey Seager is in there, but I think they're interesting anyway, given how bad Major has been. Over to you, Mangone, Rangers and Padres. What do you see here?
Yeah, let's start with, is it Major? Is that how you say it, or Major? How did you say that one?
I said Major, but I honestly don't know how to say it.
Okay, well, Mr. Major is not good. I'll say that. He's a big walk guy, which we talk about this, DC. When guys walk a ton of batters, these are the guys that you want to stack up against. Because what happens is when you get all those walks, it just adds up to those big, like 3-4 run bombs. That's when the stat gets absolutely blown up. So I think Texas is a good play. I know they're in that dome, and it's not one of the greatest, places to play bats right now at this time of year. But I'll just say this. I don't think the weather today is like that big of a factor. There's not just a lot of amazing hitting spots. There's days where it's like you see 92 degrees like all over the East Coast, and it's just like it feels dumb playing Texas. I don't feel that way today, and I think this is a good spot to take advantage of it. So I like these Texas bats. They've also turned it around a little bit. The lineup has gotten a lot better. It's Semien, Smith, Lowe, Garcia, Langford, Heim, Jankowski, Tavares, and I don't know who Jonathan or Nelias is, but he is in the lineup. So they are missing Seager in there, obviously, but it's gotten a little bit better for sure. Some of those other secondary guys are now in that lineup that haven't been there for the past couple of weeks. So I think overall, I like Texas a little bit. I think they're definitely worth getting exposure to on this slate. San Diego, I think typically John Gray is someone I do think you can take advantage of at times, but it always depends on that lineup. I know the Padres have been pretty good against righties, so I guess you could make an argument for it, but I don't know. I don't really see the Padres as a team that I want to play against. I typically want when it's like a really good, when they have like guys like, for instance, they were playing the Phillies, right? Like you got a Bryce Harper and a Kyle Schwarber in there. There's lefties that can take advantage of them. Like I typically want those good lefties that just absolutely can smash the ball against them, because that's where John Gray has a lot of his problems, against that big left-handed power. And I just don't see that much with the Padres. I assume you kind of agree. Obviously, Luis Arraez isn't an easy out. Jake Cronenworth, he's a good hitter, but not super scared of him. And I just think overall, I know the Padres are good against righties, or better against righties than they are lefties, but I don't see this as a spot that I want to play them. I know John Gray can blow up. I don't see it though.
Yeah, I think Scotty here got the best play. I think Jackson Merrill is the best play on the Padres. He's been on fire. Really hasn't gotten that much hype in his rookie year, but he's been awesome. Crushes righties.
Did you see his home run ball? He hit his home run ball. It was his first one, and he hit it right to his mom. I don't know if his mom caught it, but it was like directly where she was sitting. So that was kind of cool.
I didn't see that, but yeah, I really haven't hyped him up too much this year, but he deserves it. He's been good. I think he's a really good play here, even just as a one-off against John Gray. And then Major, I should have mentioned. I mean, his numbers against lefties, it's only been 10 innings worth of plate appearances, but man, he has been just horrible against left-handed bats. There's a 5% strikeout rate and a 24% walk rate to lefties, which is like it's only, I think, 30 plate appearances, but it's just as bad as I've ever seen. So Josh Smith, Nathaniel Lowe there, the 2-3, maybe mini stack. I'm probably mostly sticking to the lefties against Major. I don't know if his splits will continue to be that extreme. Probably not, honestly. But for now, I'm going to be targeting the lefties. And then even Jankowski, I know he could be pinch hit for, but man, Major's just been so bad. 2,300 if you need a cheap outfielder to fit in, if you're trying to pay up for pitching or whatever it is. I think he's a decent way to go to. That's Texas and San Diego. Let's go to Tampa Bay and the Kansas City Royals next. Should be around 80 degrees for this game. Relatively high humidity, crosswind. So, again, like you said, nothing too crazy with the weather. In this one, we've got Michael Wacha and Ryan Pepio pitching another game that's pretty much a straight pick 'em in the betting market. 8.5 total. Both teams projected for around 4.25 runs. And I kind of like the pitchers here. Pepio in particular, I think, is a pretty strong play for the Rays. He's pitched well for the most part this season, has had some bad luck in my opinion. And Michael Wacha, I think, is okay play as well. Neither is the highest of strikeout arms, but they're both relatively cheap at 7 and 7.1K. So this is mostly a pitching game for me. Again, not in love with either of these guys, but I think both of them certainly in play if you need a cheaper pitcher. I don't mind either Pepio or Wacha. I do prefer the Pepio side myself. What about you, man? Going Tampa Bay and Kansas City here?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Pepio's one of the cheap guys that I kind of wanted to talk about. I just think he's a really solid play here. I'm not scared of this Royals team right now. Yes, they have some good bats, right? And no one's not worried about Bobby Witt Jr. like that 2 through 4. But man, that bottom of the order is just really bad between Massey, Renfroe, Melendez, Lofton, and Isbell. And Pepio's a good pitcher. I think it's worth taking a shot on. Kansas City, it's not one of those parks that I'm that scared of either. It's 78 degrees and wind blowing in, so I think it's a great spot for Pepio. I don't totally hate Michael Wacha at 7K, but I just think I prefer a couple other cheap options. So I don't know if I'm going to get to Wacha, but he's definitely been solid, and I've kind of been on him for some of these decent performances that he's had. So I'm in on Wacha a little bit, but Pepio's he's one of my favorite cheap pitchers on this slate. We'll get to a game shortly that I think is really good, but I think Pepio, he could be my number one pitcher. Like when you asked me that end of the slate question, who's your most important pitcher? It could be him, but I'm still diving in and thinking through which one, because there's a couple cheap ones later that I want to discuss with you a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to one of those cheap ones up next with the Detroit Tigers, Minnesota Twins. We've got Twins rookie David Festa pitching. He's 6,700 on DraftKings. Had a pretty rough first outing against Arizona. Went 5 innings, but just a couple strikeouts, gave up 5 earned runs, 78 pitches. I do know for sure, though, Mangone, the Twins internally are very, very high on David Festa. They view him as one of their key rotation pieces of the future. 24-year-old, 6'6". He's got pretty good stuff. He'll be throwing 96, 97. Had really good strikeout numbers in the minor leagues. And I think Festa in the long run is going to be good. Obviously, always risk with rookie pitchers, especially pitchers just pitching for the second time. But I like him quite a bit here. Mr. Festa, the SaberSims got him at 5% owned. I assume it'll be higher than that. He's a big favorite here. People like picking on the Tigers, of course. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll come in higher than that number. Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see 15% on Festa. But honestly, I'm good with playing him at that number too. This isn't necessarily a punt play, an ownership play. I actually think he's got some legitimate upside here. So I'm in on David Festa for sure. And then Cater Montero pitching for the Tigers, another rookie. He started twice this year for them, had very similar starts in both of his appearances so far. 4.1 innings in each of them, 5 and 4 earned runs, 6 and 5 strikeouts. The surface numbers for him don't look good either. An ERA over 9, but he's another one who he is stretched out. I mean, he threw 94 pitches in his last start. He was a full-time starter in the minor leagues, and while I don't think he is a great pitcher by any means, I don't think he's an unreasonable arm. I think he's better than some of the veterans that are getting starts right now at the MLB level, and he's 4K on a night where we've got Coors Field, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani are in good spots. And, this is one where, of course, it could go south in a hurry with Cater Montero, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if you put up 15 fantasy points here, which is a massive win at 4K in my eyes on this particular slate. So I like both these pitchers. I do think you can go to bats in this game, particularly on the Twin side, but it's the pitchers that I have more interest in. Obviously, a big part of that is the price on both guys, but yeah, I'm going to have exposure to both these guys, no question about it. Montero and Festa. What about you, man? What are you doing with the Twins and the Tigers here?
Yeah, I'm not as excited about these guys as you are, and I don't think you sold me that much. But I
mean,
guess
I'm not that excited, but I'm going to play them.
Okay, I mean, I just think there's cheap pitchers that we'll get to a little bit that I like a little more that I want to talk more about, I guess. So these guys are fine if they help jam in, some of those bats. I can understand it. I just don't see myself getting there. I guess if I do get there, it's probably because of the Chris Sale stuff. But I'm trying to take some other pitchers like Pepiot and a couple others that we'll get to. So I don't think these guys are going to totally make the cut. I will admit, though, I do like targeting the Twins at times. I do like, I don't think the Tigers are that great of a team. I know they can, pop off at times. They've shown us this year. But this is more like a fade game and just kind of stay away from all around for me.
All right. Well, you're missing out on two of the better point per dollar pitchers on the slate, Mango. But,
I'll admit, when I'm building my teams, if I get him and I just can't get all the bats, maybe I'll stomach it over a couple of the other pitchers that we'll talk about. But I don't know. I just don't see myself getting there. And if I do, it's just I'll plug in the 4K guy, right? Just because he's 4K and it helps make things work. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, do you think Festa is clearly the best point per dollar pitcher on the slate?
I think they both might be in this game. A 4K pitcher on this particular slate is, I want an outfield of Judge, Ohtani, and Christian Yelich. Yeah. So I'm willing to roll the dice. Obviously, not going to work out necessarily. Official Rick Ross does have a question for you, Mango. Do you want to answer this season-long baseball question? There's a lot going on.
We have 6 IL spots. No, I want to read it. Let me see. How bad is it? So he's not dropping Mookie or Bryce. So who would he drop? Senga, Brian Wu, Jay Springs. I forget who Jay Springs. He's the pitcher for the Rays.
He's got a bunch of injured pitchers, so I would say any of those you could drop.
I would say drop one of your injured pitchers. You also didn't ask Beanair's question in the chat. He said, with Zach Wheeler on the mound and Chris Sale on the mound, would you prefer Ogunbowale or Brittany Griner in the captain slot? So you missed that riveting question from our guy.
I'm going to go with the person that I've heard of. So Brittany Griner for me.
There you go.
Is that the right answer?
I mean, they're both pretty good, but whatever. No. It doesn't really matter.
Do you have a Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese take for us, Mango?
I do. I mean, it's clear. It's just no one's watching for Angel Reese, right? Everyone's watching for Caitlin Clark.
I'm team Angel Reese. So
no. Why are you team Angel Reese?
Yeah.
Is it so the Caitlin, is it so you can fight the Caitlin Clark people on Twitter? Because that isn't, the engagement will be there. If you fired off a tweet being the league isn't carried by Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is a dog or something, people would go at you for sure.
People were really, really into Caitlin Clark. I honestly don't quite get it, but anyway, we'll keep it moving from the WNBA takes. Nobody, from the season-long baseball take to WNBA, we gotta get back on track here, and Coors Field will do that for us. 11.5 total was pretty disappointing last night overall, but another really, really strong spot for the Brewers here against Dakota Hudson. Should be around 90 degrees here in Denver, crosswinds. And I know they disappointed last night, but I will be back in on the Brewers, in particular their lefty bats, Bryce Turang and Christian Yelich. I really, really like. And then I like the lefties for Colorado, too. Colin Rea has some pretty big splits, has been hit hard, given up a lot of power to left-handed bats over the course of his career. So Ryan McMahon, Nolan Jones, Michael Toglia, I think are all pretty strong plays. I literally never play Charlie Blackmon, so I won't be doing that tonight. Just the power is kind of dried up, but I'm back in on Coors Field. I know it sucked last night, but that's last night. It's over, and the Brewers, in my opinion, rightfully have by far the highest team total on the slate, sitting at 6.5 runs. Coors Field, man, always a big question. What are you doing with it tonight?
Yeah, Brewers are obviously a good play. Like no one's going to doubt that. They are going to be. Are they the chalkiest spot on the slate for you, DC? Do you think?
I mean, I would assume so.
Yeah,
Coors Field with a 6.5 team total.
That's what I'm assuming as well. I think they're the chalkiest spots. So I typically like to fade these spots. I am struggling though because I've definitely been a big Brewers guy all year and just wanted to continue to play them over and over. Is that lineup out? I'm curious. We don't have the lineup still, right?
We do have the Rockies lineup.
Yeah, we have the Rockies one, which that's fine. And that's the team that will be low owned. So I think I'm gonna have some cores today. I'm just trying to figure out which side to go more overweight on because I feel like I can't get overweight on both. So it's likely I'm just gonna maybe take some shots on these Rockies bats, just because they've definitely proven this year that they have the upside with the way this lineup is now. And I'll admit, I'm not playing Charlie Blackmon, but with that Rogers, McMahon, Diaz, Doyle, Toglia, Nolan Jones, I mean, this is a solid lineup right now. And I'm not trying to, overhype them too much, but I know there was that show that me and Big T talked about the Rockies lineup a little bit and how it's definitely getting better. You add Diaz into the mix now because I know he was out when we were talking about it on that day. It's getting better, and I'm not scared of Colin Ria, and I do not think the Rockies all year have gotten the love that they've gotten in the past. And you could make an argument, rightfully so, with how bad they've been, but this lineup is not what it was in April and May. It's definitely better. It's stronger. It's hot there in Colorado. I saw the weather. I'm not there, DC, but it seems like it's hot as anything. So I think I'm going to play more Rockies than Brewers. I definitely like the lefties, like you said, though, DC. I want to see what that lineup is going to be because the Brewers can throw out some weird, I should say weird lineups, but guys you don't expect, and it can kind of mess up the construction. So make sure you check for that Brewers lineup. I think they're in play, but they're a team I just want to kind of be more even with the field on. It's not like this like smash core spot for me, but I think this Rockies team is very sneaky today.
Yeah. So yesterday I thought the Rockies wouldn't bring out lefties out of the pen. They ended up bringing two out. Ty Block, who's been in the starting rotation, they pitched him. He threw 39 pitches. So he's, I would say, almost certainly unavailable. And then they also used Jalen Beeks in that game, but that was his third outing in the last 4 days. I think he is likely unavailable as well. So it should be all right-handed pitching for the Rockies here. And again, no lineup for the Brewers yet, but they do have a couple of pinch hit risks in that lineup that I think will be safe today. And that's assuming they're in there. Mitchell, Frelick, and Jake Bowers, who should get all right-handed pitchers today, including Dakota Hudson, who gets absolutely crushed by left-handed bats. So it is the lefties for the Brewers that I'm highest on. And, they disappointed me yesterday, but absolutely willing to go down with the ship again, once again in Coors Field. Angels and Athletics up next. We've got, I think, another matchup of two pitchers who, in my eyes, are very much in play. Cord Davis-Daniel in his first outing 5-6 days ago now. He was fantastic. 36 DraftKings points against the Tigers, 8 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts. Looked good. I don't think he is anywhere near that good of a pitcher long term, but he gets the Oakland A's tonight, and in my eyes, he's got to be in play at 7,500. Most right-handed pitchers are, well, any handed pitcher is against the A's, especially in Oakland. So I'm in on Daniel, and I'm in on Joey Estes as well. Used some Mitch Spence last night. I know he was a hero for a lot of RPS members who did well. I view Estes and Spence as very similar pitchers in terms of, what I expect from them results-wise. And, I think Estes is absolutely capable of putting up a similar performance, 20-plus fantasy points against the Angels. He is only 6K compared to the 6,600 from Spence yesterday. So I like the pitching here, both of them, honestly. I don't even mind pairing the two together. I think I'll take Estes over Daniel once you consider the pricing into the equation. But I like both guys and not really interested in any bats in this one. Over to you, Mangone, for the Angels and the A's.
Yeah, this is the game I like the two pitchers. Daniel, he's been solid so far and gets a really good matchup against the A's, obviously. Good ballpark to be pitching in as well. So I'll take shots on Daniel here. I'll also take shots on Estes. I'm in agreement with you. I think he's very similar to Mitch Spence. I had some Mitch Spence last night, and that was solid. I think Estes, you can definitely take chances on. I think I might prefer Daniel to Estes. I don't know. Did you say Estes to Daniel? Was that your take?
Just because of the price. If they're the same price, it would be Daniel over Estes, but with the discount, I do like Estes a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fair. There is the 1,500 difference. They got him a little bit of a price bump for the really good performance last time. I don't know. I just like Daniel a lot. And I think like a Daniel Pepiao build sounds awesome today, right? Like that kind of construction. Like I don't need to go all the way down to like the 4K guys as much you were talking about, because I just feel like I have enough with those three guys. I considered Hicks a little bit, but I think you talked me off him a little bit there. But yeah, overall, this is a pitcher's duel for me. I don't think these bats are in. I mean, I shouldn't say they're not in play, but they're not great plays here. Typically, if we play Oakland, it's when they're against like a bad pitcher and like you need them for value. Like, just doesn't make a lot of sense here. So, out on the bats and I'm in on the pitchers.
Makes sense. Same approach to that game for the both of us. Let's get to Arizona and the LA Dodgers up next. We've got Gavin Stone pitching for the Dodgers, who's been really solid recently, including a complete game shutout last time out. That did come against the lowly White Sox, but still got the job done there. We were on Gavin Stone in that game. I don't know if I'll be going back to him here at 8,500, coming off the best game of his young career against obviously a pretty decent offense in the Diamondbacks. And then on the other side, we've got another pitcher making his debut, another 4K pitcher. We honestly haven't had very many 4K legitimate starters this year, but Christian Mena will be starting for the D-backs. He's been okay at the AAA level. I will say it's a brutal place to pitch in the Pacific Coast League. I think his home ballpark is in Reno, Nevada at altitude, and most of the places he pitches, frankly, are just really, really tough places to pitch. So it's almost weird to get a call up to the big leagues against a team like the Dodgers and be in, not that much of a worse spot than you're typically in. So he does miss his fair share of bats. He is a prospect of some note, 21 years old. And while I do really like the Dodgers lefties here in particular, Ohtani and Freeman leading the charge, I don't think Mena is a terrible play at 4K. I probably will have him on one of my 5 teams. And as good as that top end of the Dodgers lineup is, it falls off in a hurry. And obviously kind of the same argument with the Detroit guy. You don't need to do that much at 4K to get the job done. So I love Ohtani here. I will have plenty of him. I'll have some Freeman. I'll have some Jason Hayward even. But I will probably have Mena on a team as well. Over to you, Mangone, Arizona and the Dodgers. What are you doing?
Is he stretched out enough? I guess that's the other thing. Like,
yeah, he's good to go. All these cheap pitchers are pretty much full go, so that's not really a concern today.
Okay, yeah, it's worth mentioning because I think that's always a big concern. If I take one, I'd rather take the other cheap pitcher that you talked about because
I like the other guy better too. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's worth mentioning. He gets to go up against the Twins, who don't have Royce Lewis, and they're just a disaster without him, like I've said. But I understand it. It's 4K pitcher. You're just saying, hey, I'm building a different roster construction. Basically the whole point of playing these 4K guys is you want to get in those big bats. Like the other day, AP was in the Discord chat and he was like, who has Aaron Judge and Trey Turner together? Well, you know who might have those two tonight? Someone that plays a 4K pitcher, right? It's just that's kind of how it works. So that's the reason for it. You're looking for those like double home run games and just absolutely break the slate. I don't think I'm getting there with him, though. I think I'll do it with the other cheap option that we talked about. And I mean, Gavin Stone, he's definitely been solid this season. And we know that righties are the preferred option against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The only problem I have with Stone is 8.5 is getting up there, right? Like, it's not saying he doesn't deserve the tag. I'm just saying when I look around at this slate, I see Gavin Stone in 8.5, and I see guys like Wheeler and Sale that I just think I'd rather get up to, right? It feels like the pitchers in the middle range, like all the guys up top, it feels like they could be priced up a little higher. And then it feels like some of those cheap guys could be bumped up a little higher too, if you wanted, where that middle range just isn't as great. And I feel like that's where Gavin Stone kind of falls in. And that's why I don't like him that much.
Yeah, I'm not really touching the mid-range of pitching. Obviously going to be mostly cheap pitching for me. But Yeah, the high-end pitching, Sale and Wheeler, I think are totally legit plays, but most of those 8K guys, even the 7K guys, I just don't have that much interest tonight in terms of roster construction. Let's get to the last game on the slate, Baltimore and the Seattle Mariners. We obviously love picking on the Mariners. Grayson Rodriguez with a good performance last night. No surprise there. We've got Logan Gilbert pitching for the Mariners here. He's obviously been way better at home in general. I still don't really want to pick on the Orioles with their right-handed pitcher, even in Seattle. So I'm not going to use Gilbert here. I don't think he's a terrible play by any means, but won't be on my rosters personally. And then Dean Kramer, people that read my content or watch the show or whatever it is, I love taking pitchers, particularly right-handed pitchers in Seattle. Almost, like without discretion, like almost anybody. Kramer, though, coming off of injury, pitched horribly in his rehab assignments, 11.4 ERA. It's right there on the DK blog for anyone who wants to see it. I think he's going to be limited to around 75 pitches here. There's just enough there for, even though this park and lineup is one I love to target with opposing starting pitching, Kramer not making the cut for me tonight. So I'll go against kind of my usual build of just going against who's ever going against Seattle in Seattle. But no Kramer for me, just too many red flags there on a slate where there's a lot of pitchers that I really like. So I'm off of both these pitchers and frankly, mostly off the bats here as well. Again, I think you could take that lefty power for Baltimore if you want to get really contrarian, but so many good spots that I probably won't end up there much myself. What about you, man, going Mariners and Orioles?
Yeah, I mean, if we attack Logan Gilbert, we want to do it like, in Yankee Stadium, right? We don't want to do it.
If this was in Baltimore, I would be on these Baltimore
Correct.
lefties, but in Seattle,
it just doesn't, I don't think it makes that much sense. So
yeah.
Not really interested in that. I can be talking to Dean Kramer a little, but I prefer Pepio and some of these other guys in that range. So I doubt I'll get there. But I can be. When I looked at some of the numbers, it looked like he had some positive regression coming. So I didn't hate it, but again, I want to play Pepio and some of these other guys in this range. I'm definitely high on Pepio, who we'll talk about here in a second. I think he's the guy for me, but this is not a game I love. It's just more pitcher's game and kind of move on. Of course, if you want to play like a Gunnar Henderson one-off, right? Like I wouldn't blame you for that. That's perfectly fine, but not going to stack this team up.
Yeah, I'm with you. It looks like Kramer will get some ownership, and I wouldn't be surprised if he pitches well here, but just going a different direction myself. That's all 11 games. Let's get to stacks, pitching, home runs, and favorite hitters overall. We'll throw it over to you, Mangone. Your favorite stack and your favorite contrarian stack.
Yeah, favorite stack. Let's see. Oh, it would probably be Texas. I like the idea of attacking this Missouri guy. I do think the number one stack is probably Milwaukee, but like I want to kind of leave them out of it just because it's obvious stuff. But I do think Texas is like the number one stack for me. Like getting exposure to them, and then the contrarian stack. I could say them. I just want to make sure. I'll go with the Rockies just because I do think the Rockies are a very sneaky play today. I think if people play Coors, I don't think they're going to Colorado. I think they're really just going to Milwaukee and moving on. And I just think that's kind of a mistake. This lineup's a lot better. Nolan Jones in the 7 hole, that's a lot better than him in the 2 hole and some of these other spots he's been in. They've upgraded their lineup. So sign me up for some of these Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, I did list the Brewers as my favorite stack yesterday. I'll go back to them again, even though they disappointed us. If I used them yesterday, I guess I'm allowed to use them again today as my favorite stack. So I will be back on the Brewers train, specifically the left-handed hitters. We did get the lineup, and I was pleased to see the lefties that I was hoping would be in there are in there. So I'm back in on the Brewers tonight, left-handed bats for the most part. And then contrarian stack, going with the Phillies against Imanaga. I think he's home run prone. It's warm in Chicago, and the Phillies have plenty of right-handed power to do some damage against Imanaga. So they will be my contrarian stack today. Pitching. Mangone. A lot to choose from today. One might call it an elite pitching slate. What are you doing with your most overweight pitcher today on this slate?
Yeah, one might say it's an elite pitching slate, and I think it's Mr. Pepio for me. He seems like the guy that I'm going to be most overweight on. I love him in that range. Feels cheap enough where I don't have to dig down into the 4K absolute shitters, but I get a guy that is, some might say elite. I'm a big Pepio guy, so I'll take my chances with him.
I will go with Mr. David Festa, who I think is going to pitch a strong game for the Twins, but I'll have plenty of these dirt balls in the sub 7K range for sure across my rosters. Home run call, Mangone. Who's going yard? I'm gonna remove Ohtani and Judge from the equation. Just too easy of picks. But other than those two, who's going yard?
All right, let's go with the guy who's been swinging a decent stick lately. Colin Rhea struggles against the lefties a little bit, right? We're gonna go with Mr. Ryan McMahon. He bangs one out. McMahon's always been good to me. He's been a guy that treat me well, so hopefully he treats me well this slate.
Like that call, I will go with Nick Castellanos hitting cleanup today for the Phillies against Imanaga. Again, I like those Phillies power righties quite a bit today as contrarian options. And finally, Mangone, your favorite hitter on this slate?
Yeah, I'm going definitely with an off the board guy, but we're gonna go to Texas and we're gonna go with Mr. Nathaniel Lowe going up against Mazar. Talked about how he's bad against lefties, and Lowe's been swinging a better bat too lately, and hopefully he gets a hot one today and bangs two out. So we'll go with Nathaniel Lowe as my play of the day.
Love it. I will go with let's go back to the Phillies. Let's go Trey Turner coming off the 2 home run game, heating up. I think this is a better spot for the right-handers against Imanaga than the market does for sure. So we'll go with Trey Turner of the Phillies, teaming him up with Castellanos. And of course, if you want to get Alec Bowman there for a little 3-man Philly stack, I think that's a pretty good way to go tonight. That'll do it for this show. Of course, we'll have all the information, cores, write-ups, answering questions in the Discord over at runpuresports.com. You can use promo code DC15 to sign up, get 15% off weekly, monthly, full packages, whatever you're looking for. And me and Mangone will be back here bright and early tomorrow morning, breaking down the 4th of July slate. I'm sure we'll see many of you then. And hopefully see some RPS logos up top. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't yet done so. That'll do it for us. For Mangone, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.